Hi there.
It sounds like you're supposed to be like, hey, Donna. Hey, Chad. Because we're here to talk about Broadway.
Broadway.
We were fortunate enough to go and see The Notebook a couple of weeks ago. And we said, we're going to do a podcast on this because it had such a great impact. And I wasn't expecting that. Anything on Broadway is always fantastic. But there were moments in the show where I was afraid to breathe because I was afraid the sobs that would come out of me would disrupt the rest of the audience's enjoyment of the show.
For sure.
It was huge impact and emotion wrapped
Yeah.
up in watching this beautiful production.
Yep.
What did you think?
Oh, I would agree. I sat there wondering how many people in the audience were there because dementia is presently or recently in their lives. Because the more people that we talk to, the more people. I don't think I really know anybody who hasn't been touched by dementia, and so I think the silence, the sobs that you could hear in the background. I mean, you could tell that every single person was so moved by what was happening.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I thought, how are they going to manage reproducing what was a wonderful film that came out in 2004 with Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams playing the young Noah and Allie.
Right.
And it was really beautifully done on stage to have the three stages of their lives. You know, the young couple, the middle couple where maybe I say middle, they were like in their 30s, and then the older couple that was now facing, you know, closer to their own mortality, and it was just so beautifully done to create that and evoke the emotions of the young couple and the memories of what the young couple were together, and then the middle couple as well. And then to bring it full circle, I thought particularly moving on stage for people who need to try and visualize what it was like. There were times on stage, you remember, where they had all three couples.
Yeah.
And the older couple were in the center of it. They were the ones focusing on these memories that were swirling and interweaving. The couples were moving separately and together around the older people, standing separately across the stage from one another. And the looks on their faces of the love, the anguish, the pride, the joy, the sadness. It was just, those were the moments really, truly that took my breath away, because I think we can all relate to it, regardless of where we are on our own journeys.
Oh.
We're all headed towards that great white light.
Absolutely, and when you think about just a love story, which hopefully everybody gets to experience.
Yeah.
You know, let's just hope that everybody has their own personal love story. And when you think about that journey of how you met and when you realized that you really were in love with this person and that this person was in love with you, and then the peaks and valleys that you go through over your lifetime together. You know, everybody's story is unique and beautiful and painful, and all of those things.
Yeah.
What I really loved about The Notebook, on stage, the movie, the book, all of it, is the fact that Allie has dementia. She's so enthralled with this story, and maybe she realizes that it's her story at times, and maybe she doesn't, but it doesn't matter because she is reliving it. And I also find it to be so therapeutic for Noah, her husband, to be telling her the story, because he too is reliving it and seeing the passion in her. I mean, it's just genius.
Yeah, it's wildly exciting to see that kind of unfold throughout the retelling of their story. And even to have that, modern day kind of creep into the memories as they're happening, and into the future once they're older, and they have the surrounding of the nursing home and the staff and how they kind of come in and interrupt this beautiful telling of a story and moment of, well, I suppose, relationship and relation. You know, like she's making a connection to the story that's being told, whether she realizes it's her own story or not. She's making a connection, and it's giving her that feeling of wellness and excitement, and she wants to know what happens next. I thought, you know, like,
Right.
that's beautiful, and he gets to tell her. You know, so he's holding the keys to saying, well, this is what happens next, and isn't it wonderful? And I just thought it was just so beautiful, and I think in that way, I think dementia can be a beautiful thing, because you can relive old memories thinking that they're new stories, new fantastic things, and it's done in a way of love and care and support, and just being in the moment with that person where they are, and not pushing so hard to say, you remember, you have to remember. It's more about, you love this story too. It's a beautiful story, and gosh, you know, aren't we lucky to be listening to this story or relating to this story, as opposed to that single most, you have to remember. I mean, yes, that's the sweet spot. That's a big reward that comes out of reminiscence therapy, when and if you get that. But I think the reward is also in the interaction and the feeling, seeing somebody relate to something that is emotional because they still can, that it gives them that feel-good feeling, that gives them that sense of well-being, and just, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness when you can be a part of it, or watch it when in between couples.
I agree. I mean, never once in the script, never once do they say, "You remember, don't you? Don't you remember?" And I think
The
that's
child
not-
came in, the adult child came in with his kids, so the grandchildren, they came in and they said, well, you remember, this is your granddaughter.
Exactly, right, but not in terms of their love story.
No.
Because their love story, it wasn't necessarily, as you said, it wasn't about remembering. It was, let's live today this beautiful story. You know, people who have memory loss, they are where they are in the moment. So to have that story and live it in that moment, you know, we've talked many times about the fact that you might lose some memories, but you don't lose your emotions. And in some regard, it's such a beautiful story because Allie and Noah fall in love again.
Again and again and again.
And each time, you know, it was so interesting because each time Noah would enter, Allie, depending on the moment, might recognize him and might not, but out would come the notebook and back into the story, and then, you know, and then Allie was in a place of contentment. She was happy. She was living through this story, and it was just so beautiful. There's no doubt about it that, you know, for, you know, back to the son and the grandchild. Sure, it's difficult when people don't remember who's in front of them.
Oh, it's painful.
It's painful. I think it's more painful for the person in front of them in many ways than it is for in this case, for Allie. But having said that, I think that this story really teaches us so much about positive interactions with people who struggle with memory loss.
Yeah, and I think Noah making that his focus, even when there's a spoiler alert, he becomes unwell and he's in the hospital himself, and his one focus is actually, and his motivation to get well is so that he can go back and read. The action of reading the story to Allie, not about, you know, forcing it for her to feel one way or another, but his activity of reading gave them such purpose together as a couple, you know, as they were aging and going through her dementia journey and his health issues as well. And I thought another byproduct of it that was really beautiful was that the staff and other people seeing the interaction and learning from that and how beautiful it was, they valued the importance, for the most part, they valued his role of just reading to Allie and how that would calm her. And even if she didn't know who he was, she just thought he was another gentleman, another resident of the nursing home. I thought that that was really awesome to support him in that as well, to not always just focus on the end result and that end little, like, you remember, don't you? It's more like, hey, he's reading it to her. It's bringing him joy. It's bringing her joy. Aren't we lucky to witness that?
Right, and if you, well, spoiler alert again to later in the story, but when he's really not well and he's not able to be there, other staff jump in. And,
That was beautiful.
And you know, to your point, the staff learn how to interact. I remember distinctly at the beginning of the show, there's the role of the nurse, and I thought, ouch, I don't like the way she's talking
The tone
to
of
Allie.
voice
I didn't
and-
like her tone of voice.
yeah.
I just felt like, oh, that's not how we do it, right? And that's not how you treat people. But over time, she softened. And I think that not only was this therapeutic and valuable and just so special for Allie and Noah, but it was special for anyone that got to witness this, because you saw people. I mean, listen, the most important thing, I think, is to remember that the person living with dementia, if that's the first time that you're meeting somebody, it's really important to remember that this is a human being who has a history, who has done whatever they've done in their lives, and you know, we can't forget that we have to treat people always with dignity, and you saw that dignity unfold in the show.
Definitely, as a result of Noah's persistence
Yep.
of teaching the staff, it's in some ways by his actions and his words as well, and helping them to know the history of Allie as well, so that they can appreciate, and then, you know, jump in when he wasn't able to help bring about that wellness in her, that security that she was looking for. So I think it's a really wonderful thing all around for, you know, dementia. It was wonderful for aging. It was wonderful for relationships, emotions. You know, I kind of thought, no one knows what lies ahead for us in our health and as we age, and it could be any one of us up there experiencing that, and I would only hope that those around me would love me in such a way that they would support me in the retelling of the highs of my life, maybe even in some of the lows of my life, and because it's all makes the fabric of my life, and to honor that and to honor me, and recognize that, you know, I still crave that that love and that affection, and to be valued as a person throughout, right up into my very last breath. And I think that that's a wonderful thing, that a gift that Noah gave Allie, and Allie gave to Noah, and all around, and then as a result, everybody around them benefited from that gift. It was beautiful.
Yes, it was. It's a beautiful story.
Go
and
see it.
Go see it. The truth is, it can be all of our stories if we're willing to take that time and remember. You know, so the last comment is that at face value, people think that the show is about dementia. It's really not. It's about a love story.
A beautiful love story.
A beautiful love story. And anyway, go see it.
It was awesome. Have fun.